Welcome back, Pig Fam, and thank you for joining me in today's video. We've got some pretty good news, I would say. It's actually looking a little bit more positive today than it was over the weekend and, of course, last week, where we saw those lawsuits being launched by the SEC against Binance and Coinbase. So what's the good news, and why am I sounding a little bit chirpier than usual? Well, the good news here is coming to us from a number of different fronts. The first one is pace of inflation over in the US has eased, and now it's the slowest increase that it's seen over 2 years. Yes, I did just say increase. It has still gone up. In fact, it's climbed 4% year on year, but it is lower than they were expecting, not by a massive amount. But look, if they're slowing down inflation, they're slowing down inflation. And the good news is, of course, that means that the Fed may not have to increase interest rates when it meets today for its kickoff meeting. This meeting today is going to be the first meeting they've had in over 15 months. Now, there's no predetermined interest rate hike on the table. And with that news about the CPI, it's very unlikely to happen as well. And as we know, increased interest rates do have a knock-on effect on investments into the S&P 500 and crypto. So not having an interest rate hike is going to hopefully make the space a little bit more interesting for investors. Of course, the SEC's business is going to put people off because there's some uncertainty there with regards to what the SEC's position is going to be on this industry in total. But the CPI being lower than expected, the Fed not increasing interest rates will definitely be a net positive, not just for crypto, but for everybody in general, because things are getting very expensive, even here in the UK, where I think we've got interest rates a lot higher than the US right now. So that's good news, number one. Then good news number two. Hinman docs unsealed. SEC concerned over Ether is not a security statement. So XRP fans out there are loving this news right now, and I'll get into why, but as part of the SEC's case against Ripple, Ripple demanded that these documents be handed over and then made public, and they've just been unsealed and released, and now we are all getting to have a look at them. Cointelegraph reports the newly released documents showing edits that were made to a 2018 speech given by former director of the SEC's corporate finance division, Bill Hinman, suggest the editors were concerned his statement might undermine the idea that Ether is a security. This could risk locking the agency into a position it would find hard to change at a later date, the SEC comments warn. So comment A16 says, as above, we suggest deleting this sentence because of our concern that informational asymmetries likely do still exist in some form, even where an enterprise is decentralized. The application of the securities laws may have value, but as a practical matter, there is no way to implement them. Commented number A17. We still have reservations about including a statement directly about Ether in the speech. Even with the caveats in the sentence, it seems that it would be difficult for the agency to take a different position on Ether in the future. These Hinman documents refer to that speech in which Hinman said that while cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ether may start off as securities, it's possible for them to become something more akin to a commodity once they become sufficiently decentralized. Ripple's CEO Brad Garlinghouse said June 12th that the documents would prove to be worth the wait. And we can see why he is saying that, because Ripple's chief legal officer calls for an investigation after the release of Hinman docs. Stuart Oldrotty said the internal documents show former SEC Director Hinman had created new laws without authority. Last month, the SEC's motion to seal the internal documents related to the Hinman speech was denied by Judge Torres. She ruled that the documents were not protected by deliberate process privilege, which can grant executive US government branches disclosure exemptions in civil litigation cases. Hinman himself said in 2018 that a cryptocurrency might no longer be classed as a security if its network becomes sufficiently decentralized. He gave Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically as examples that meet that criteria. Here's the direct quote. If the network on which the token or coin is to function is sufficiently decentralized, where purchasers would no longer reasonably expect a person or group to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts, the assets may not represent an investment contract. Obviously, we saw these documents get released, and now Ripple are pouncing on them and using this as a great way to generate a little bit of buzz and a little bit of momentum for their legal case. To add to it all, there's an email from Hinman dated from June 4th, 2018, where he said that he didn't see any need to regulate ETH as a security. It also mentioned a phone call with Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin to confirm our understanding of how the Ethereum Foundation operates. And Coinbase's chief legal officer is inferring that Hinman's overstepped his remit by creating law without authority. And he said, unelected bureaucrats must faithfully apply the law within the constraints of their jurisdiction. They can't, as Hinman tried, create new law. So this, of course, is great news, not just for XRP. And yes, people are focusing on XRP a lot because it is Ripple's case. But this is great news for Ethereum because, of course, people were getting a little bit concerned about the SEC's very aggressive tactics over the last week or so. And we saw, of course, Bitcoin's market capitalization increased as a result of this because people were worried that Ethereum would be classed as a security. This will throw a spanner in the works for Gary Gensler. And he is facing a lot of backlash from people in the industry, of course. And we have Tim Draper on Fox News excoriating Gary Gensler for turning the US into a technology wasteland.
Weak regulators spread fear, and strong regulators spread opportunity. And I think we've got a real problem because the SEC has been spreading fear. This regulation by enforcement makes no sense.
So, of course, the question will be, will any of this actually make any difference to Gary Gensler or the SEC? There's now pushback from politicians over in the US as well against Gary over all of this. But in all likeliness, Gary Gensler is probably going to carry on as usual, business as usual for him. I don't actually see him being pushed out of his job there, at least not during this administration. Things might change in 2024 depending on how that election goes. In the meantime, though, we are seeing these companies moving to other jurisdictions, with a lot of them actually even coming here to the UK to talk to our regulators and to our politicians about coming and building their businesses here in the UK under a much more crypto-friendly set of rules. I think after today's meeting with the Federal Reserve, interest rates are going to be held steady, and we're going to then see Bitcoin probably get a little bit more interest from investors. Certainly, I think we'll see a bounce for Bitcoin and Ethereum off the back of that news. The Hinman documents also lend some actual credibility to that potential outcome. So that's where I see it going today, guys. I will be back with another video again tomorrow. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.